I need you to understand something critical right now. At 11:03 this morning, three Republican Senate leaders walked into Mitch McConnell's office for what should have been a routine leadership meeting. 47 minutes later, they emerged, and within 2 hours, Washington was engulfed in the most significant internal party conflict since Watergate. This is David from Centerpoint News, and what I'm about to share with you is not speculation or theory. This is about senior Republicans concluding that their own party leader has become impossible to work with. Let me walk you through what sources inside the Senate Republican Conference have confirmed. Early Wednesday morning, tension reached a breaking point when demands were made for immediate votes on controversial legislation, backed by threats of primary challenges against sitting senators who refused to comply. Then, leaked audio began circulating through senior Republican circles. The audio contained statements suggesting that Senate independence was being dismissed. The reaction from experienced senators was not fear, it was anger. By mid-morning, an emergency meeting was convened. McConnell, Thune, Barrasso, and Cornyn met behind closed doors for 47 minutes. What they decided in that room represents the most significant pushback against executive overreach from within the Republican Party in recent memory. To understand why this matters, you need to understand the dynamics that have shaped Republican Senate behavior for years. It has not been about ideology or policy. It has been about political survival, fear of primary challenges, fear of being isolated, fear of ending up like those who spoke out and saw their careers derailed. Look at the pattern. Mitt Romney voted to convict in the first impeachment trial and faced immediate political consequences. He was censured by his state party and politically isolated. Bill Cassidy voted to convict in the second trial, spent years trying to repair relationships, and still faced primary threats. Kevin McCarthy negotiated a debt ceiling deal, and within weeks, he was removed as Speaker. The message was clear: dissent has consequences. That fear has been remarkably effective for 8 years, but something fundamental shifted this week. Three factors converged. First, the electoral mathematics changed. The 2024 Senate map is brutal for Republicans, with 23 seats up for election compared to only 11 Democratic seats. Recent polling shows that association with chaos has become a net negative in key states. Internal data from Montana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania shows Republicans losing significant support when tied to controversial rhetoric. One senator reportedly told colleagues, "I can defend conservatism, but I cannot defend chaos." Second, recent foreign policy statements have alarmed allies and the defense establishment. When you make threats involving military action against allied territory, you are not negotiating. You are destabilizing international order. Members of the Senate Armed Services Committee understand this deeply. Third, legal pressures are mounting. Multiple cases are progressing, trial dates are being set, and senior Republican strategists are concerned about the political implications heading into November. When you combine electoral vulnerability, foreign policy concerns, and legal complications, the risk calculation changes. Defending controversial behavior stops being uncomfortable and starts looking like political suicide. According to sources briefed on Wednesday's meeting, here is what happened. McConnell opened by addressing the leaked audio directly. He played it twice. The silence in the room was described as suffocating because everyone understood what they were hearing. This was not frustration with congressional process. This was dismissal of congressional authority. Then came the exchange that changed everything. Thune spoke first, saying they could not defend the recent statements. Not the Greenland rhetoric, not the emergency powers demands, not the threats against their own colleagues. Barrasso pushed back, warning that public opposition would result in political destruction. He reminded everyone of what happened to those who stood up before. McConnell leaned forward with the line that shifted the entire conversation. He said it was different this time because they were going to face political consequences regardless. The real question was whether they would go down defending their own institution or abandoning it. He warned that if they did not draw a line now, there would be no institution left to defend. Cornyn followed with electoral reality. He said polling in his state had deteriorated with every point tied to chaotic rhetoric. Voters want stability and governance, not explanations about why their senator is defending threats against allied nations. McConnell's proposal was not symbolic. It was structural. He outlined a plan. Draft a letter stating clearly the Senate will not vote on expanding emergency powers. Announce that leadership will not campaign with anyone unless foreign policy rhetoric is moderated. Warn that if primary challenges are initiated against sitting senators, leadership will support incumbents using the full resources of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Then McConnell looked at each person and demanded an answer. Thune said yes immediately. Cornyn said yes. Barrasso stayed silent for what was described as the longest 30 seconds of the meeting. Then he said McConnell was asking him to commit political suicide. McConnell replied that he was asking him to do his job. Barrasso finally agreed, 4 votes. And with that, the structure that has held the party together for 8 years began to crack. What happened next moved with stunning speed. By 9:15, McConnell personally called 15 senior Republican senators. 3 committed immediately: Romney, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski. But 2 commitments shocked everyone: Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio. Graham's shift is the earthquake here. This is one of the loudest defenders we have seen, the senator who has defended every controversy for years, and now he breaks. A source says he told colleagues there is a line, and recent statements crossed it. By mid-morning, the letter was drafted. 5 pages of constitutional framing. The key line, according to sources, states they can no longer, in good conscience, enable conduct that threatens constitutional order and undermines Senate authority. Before noon, 12 signatures were committed. Then word reached the White House. According to leaked communications, the response was immediate and furious. Calls were made to loyalists. The call with Graham lasted under 2 minutes. Someone briefed on it says Graham was told he was finished politically. Graham responded that if that was the case, so be it. By early afternoon, the split became visible. House Republicans issued full support statements. Senate Republicans stayed conspicuously silent. Reporters noticed immediately. By 2 p.m., major outlets were running stories about Senate leadership refusing to back the emergency powers demand. At 3 p.m., the letter leaked. The Washington Post received a copy. Politico confirmed signatures within minutes. The full text spread everywhere, and the political world understood this was not a private disagreement. This was open revolt. Here is what makes this serious. Senate leadership prepared a 3-stage contingency plan for retaliation. Stage 1. If attacked publicly, 5 additional senators issue supporting statements and leadership holds a press conference affirming they respect the presidency but serve the Constitution first. Stage 2. If primary challenges are initiated, leadership commits $50 million to defend incumbents, refuses to fund challengers, and mobilizes corporate donors. Stage 3. If escalation continues, the Senate moves forward with a formal resolution limiting executive emergency powers, requiring bipartisan support. One senator reportedly said they have prepared for every scenario, and this time they are not backing down. While Republicans were fracturing Wednesday afternoon, Senate Democrats held their own meeting. Chuck Schumer faced a choice: exploit the chaos by attacking both sides together, or stay quiet and let Republicans own the split. According to sources, he chose the latter. If Democrats do not attack, the story becomes internal Republican conflict, a narrative that cannot easily be redirected. Democratic leadership sent guidance: no public celebration, no cable news appearances, no mocking statements. Instead, quiet offers to co-sponsor emergency powers limitations if Republicans move forward. The message to Senate Republicans was clear: we will help you do the right thing without extracting additional political cost. Wednesday evening, social media erupted with 27 posts in 90 minutes, all attacking senators, demanding primaries, claiming leadership equals deep state. The first primary challenge was announced in South Carolina against Lindsey Graham. Graham's response to reporters: bring it on. By evening, Fox News primetime coverage was visibly split. For the first time in years, conservative media was not speaking with one voice. Corporate donors moved quickly. 3 major Republican donors issued a joint statement supporting constitutional governance and institutional stability. This is business code for backing the Senate over executive authority. By 9:30 p.m., the public count reached 17 Republican senators aligned with the McConnell letter, with 5 more privately committed. The number everyone is watching is 18. If 18 Republicans align with Democrats, emergency powers expansion is blocked. 18 means the revolt succeeds. Overnight, internal Republican polling data leaked to Politico. The numbers were devastating. A generic Republican candidate in swing states polls at +2. The same candidate with controversial endorsement drops to -4. That is a 6-point swing, the difference between holding the Senate and losing it. Thursday morning, 42 Republican Senate staffers signed an internal letter saying they cannot continue defending indefensible positions. The letter threatened mass resignations if senators backtrack. When junior staffers refuse to draft statements and answer phones, operations collapse. The business community weighed in again. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce emphasized constitutional stability as essential for growth and investor confidence. The National Association of Manufacturers echoed the message within an hour. Corporate America told Senate Republicans which side to choose. International pressure arrived next. The UK Prime Minister's office expressed alarm about rhetoric targeting Allied territorial integrity. Germany and France followed. The NATO Secretary General reinforced that Article 5 commitments are sacred and non-negotiable. Allies were publicly rebuking an American president, and Senate Republicans were reading those statements, knowing real international damage had been done. Thursday, escalation was chosen. An emergency rally was announced in South Carolina for this Saturday, directly targeting Graham's home state. The message was obvious. This is war within the party. Trump met with his most loyal House allies, planning what sources called a maximum pressure campaign against Senate Republicans. A social media post called the 17 senators traitors and called for protests at their offices. Federal law enforcement elevated security concerns. Capitol Police moved to heightened alert. McConnell responded through a spokesperson, saying threats and intimidation will not deter constitutional responsibilities. The Senate does not work for any individual. It serves the American people and the Constitution. But sources say McConnell quietly reached out to 5 Democratic moderates: Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, John Tester, Sherrod Brown, and Bob Casey. The message was direct. If Republicans move forward with emergency powers limitations, will you support it? All 5 said yes. The math changed. With 17 Republicans committed and those Democrats willing, the votes to block expanded emergency powers exist. The revolt has already succeeded structurally. Step back and understand what this represents. This is the mechanism of authoritarian control breaking in real time. First, fear stops working when electoral consequences become more threatening than political retribution. Second, collective action breaks authoritarian leverage. When senators move together and sign their names, nobody can be isolated. Risk becomes shared and protection becomes mutual. Third, institutions can resist when they choose to. The Senate has constitutional authority, and for years it surrendered that voluntarily. Now it is being reclaimed. What happens next? There are 3 scenarios. 1. Backing down, moderating rhetoric, declaring victory anyway. Probability 25%. 2. Stalemate. Attacks continue but avoid full primary war. The Senate holds firm but does not escalate further. The fracture continues through the election. Probability 50%. 3. Full rupture. All-out primaries. Senate passes emergency powers limits with Democratic votes. The party splits formally. Electoral damage becomes catastrophic. Probability 25%. Based on conversations with multiple Senate offices, the likely path is Scenario 2 drifting toward Scenario 3. The split does not heal. It widens gradually until something breaks permanently. This revolt is not about any single policy issue. It is about control of the Republican Party and whether the Senate will reclaim its constitutional authority. That decision changes everything. This fracture is structural, not emotional. It is political survival mathematics. When defending controversial behavior costs seats, behavior changes. Loyalty becomes liability. Here is the concern, regardless of party affiliation. When leaders feel cornered, they typically escalate. This is the first time we have seen internal revolt at this scale. The pattern under threat is to hit harder. What happens when the target is your own party? Can a major party survive internal civil war? Can American democracy handle the fallout of a party tearing itself apart? We do not have those answers yet, but we are about to find out. Subscribe to Centerpoint News right now, because over the next 48 hours, 3 things will become clear. Will there be backing down or doubling down? Will Senate Republicans hold firm or splinter? Will this revolt become a revolution or just another failed attempt at resistance? I will be here breaking down every development as it happens. The next 72 hours will decide whether executive authority continues to dominate the Republican Party or whether institutional authority finally reasserts itself. This is David from Centerpoint News. Stay informed.